Children all over the world are affected by poverty, and one of the most affected demographics are child refugees. Right now, child refugee population is growing enormously, and it's important that we address how this is going to affect children all over the course of their lifespan. Child refugees are children who are forced to relocate due to pressures in their country, whether that be famine or war or religious persecution. Often they're fleeing and go to camps for 1 to 20 years, and then sometimes from there they're relocated to a new home country where they're forced to learn a totally new culture and a new language. And they can have many barriers because of language differences and cultural differences that lead to a struggle where they cannot get out of a poverty cycle. Often these are unseen struggles because of all of the barriers to that community in a new place. Their voices are often unheard, and political change can be very slow to address that. So there can be generations of refugees in a country like America that cannot get out of a poverty cycle due to lack of ability to access resources or lack of an ability to gain the education they need or even understand what it would look like to be successful. Right now, this is a really relevant topic because of Syrian refugee children. Over 1 million children are being displaced to many different countries, including the United States over time, but immediately to Lebanon and North Africa and Turkey and Jordan. These places are feeling a lot of pressures of housing and caring for these children, and in many places these children are unable to get adequate health care or education that they might need in order to grow. And this is during times in their lives when children in America would be being able to be educated and to further their ability to grow up. There's a strong correlation between child refugees and poverty. Many scholars link the two, saying that they are a minority within minority. What they mean by this is that even within a country where they're relocated and have access to education and different local resources, it's hard for them to access help. Maybe there are language barriers that aren't addressed well, or maybe there are cultural differences that are making it more difficult. But they're often a minority as a race and also a minority in that they came over by force and that they have trauma to deal with, and there are many different psychological issues that make it more challenging than for maybe some immigrants or some people who are dealing with poverty that are also minority groups. There are social structures that tend to perpetuate the cycle, studies are showing. So although we do have things in place to help refugees, perhaps it is not always enough in order for them to have all of the chances for them to succeed in a new place. And even when we recognize that there is a poverty cycle, it's harder to break than with Native members of the majority group, simply because their voice is less heard. They are often in less of a place to have a platform for speaking or advocating for themselves, and less people know about them because there's such a small portion of our population that sometimes advocacy efforts aren't able to get enough people on board to change cycles.
Children in refugee camps. People become refugees whenever they are fleeing the country that they lived in. There are plenty of reasons for that to happen, but the two major reasons are armed conflict and persecution. Both of these reasons are a horrible way to treat people within their own country and even their own religion. This forces families to try to flee. In this process, children are easily lost or their parents don't make it. According to the UNHCR, in 2014, there were 35 million refugees that left various countries, and about 17 million of those were children. They also reported that last year, 51% of refugees were under 18 years old. This is the highest figure for child refugees in more than a decade, unquote. This is not a good thing, because the children have no idea what is going on or where they are going to end up. When they do make it to a refugee camp, they stay there anywhere from 1 month to 20 years before they are forced to move to another camp, or if they are lucky, to a country that will support them. Relocated refugee children. When the child refugees come to the United States or other countries, many don't come with their parents or resources to start a life. They come here for many different reasons, but all are wanting to get away from their past and are looking forward to the future. However, there are those that cannot acquire representation or people to help them out, so they are forced to be deported either back to where they came from or to another camp that can care for them. The kids' futures depend on which camp they are sent to and how long they are there. The GF Coalition says, quote, some refugees were highly educated working professionals before they were displaced, while others have been essentially warehoused in refugee camps for most of their life and were unable to work. Some camps provide good educational opportunities for the children, and others do not. Unquote. Some camps teach refugees how to work and help them in getting ready for a new country so they are able to flourish. Some camps, however, do not provide the teaching that is needed, so the children have to figure out on their own. Every country is different, however, and the children must learn the rules and customs that people live by so they can succeed. Boise and refugee children. There are some programs in Boise that allow children to learn what it means to live in America and also how to speak English. One of the programs is called Promising Practices, and they are able to take children from all around the world and help them assimilate into our society by giving them specialized care. The Boise School District hires people to the program who are called Certified English Language Learner Teachers, and they are what make the difference between a child refugee succeeding and one that is not able to. The Promising Practices website says, quote, the Boise School District is currently instructing children who speak 88 languages. The main foreign-born populations in the Boise schools are African, Meskhetian, Turks, and Iraqis. Unquote. Almost all of the families come with no money and live in poverty while being taken care of by the city. They have to depend on others to take care of them, to take care of the children they have. A family that I know is doing this exact thing. A mom and her 4 children came from Ethiopia as refugees and had nothing. She could not afford daycare for her children while she was off working and earning money. The family that I know stepped in and told her that they would be able to take care of the children while she was working. They helped the kids with their homework and helped them to become part of our American society. This way of bringing children into Boise is definitely the best, but there are just not enough families that can help out like this, so the Promising Practices is a great opportunity for the refugee children.
Syria began with peaceful anti-government protests in March of 2011, followed by a violent crackdown by the government. The protests escalated and rebels began fighting back. From the beginning until now, 320,000 people have been killed, and nearly 12,000 of them have been children. Child refugees are at risk for malnutrition, abuse, exploitation, and disease because of lack of running water and sanitation facilities, limited resources, and living in crowded areas with people they are unfamiliar with. Some parents, in fear for their daughter's safety, arrange for marriages as early as 13. Many children have to go to work to help their families financially, and some are recruited to fight or be human shields in an attack. Healthcare and education systems have been destroyed, and the economy in Syria is shattered, leaving little to no hope for Syrian refugee children's futures in the country. Refugees are fleeing Syria to neighboring countries such as Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, Egypt, and Greece. Some are leaving on foot, and others make a very dangerous journey across the Mediterranean Sea, where some have drowned along the way. Over 2 million children are not attending school because there isn't one. Their parents cannot afford for them to go, or they need to quit school to be able to work to support their families, or because they lack transportation. The United Nations Children's Agency states that This conflict has reversed 10 years of progress in the children's education in Syria. Thousands of schools have been damaged or destroyed. Refugees are living in camps, sheds, abandoned buildings, garages, and tents. Most often they do not have running water or sanitation facilities and are in overcrowded and unsanitary living conditions. Refugee children in Boise face different struggles from those who are not native to the United States. Many refugees are not used to a long summer break, and most of the children tend to lose some knowledge gained during the school year by taking 3 months off for the summer. Having limited proficiency in English and losing knowledge can increase to months of grade level equivalency. With a steeper learning curve, they also face challenging obstacles to social adjustment and integration within the public school system. State funding cuts threaten much-needed summer programming and opportunities for middle school students, so the Idaho Office for Refugees assembled a group of stakeholders to come up with a plan to counteract the cuts and keep the students learning and socializing with other students over the summer. This led to the first International Summer Youth Program in Boise, and it pairs refugee students with native-born peers for mentoring and intercultural exchange, and it has been very successful. Recently, the Glenbrook Apartments Complex property management decided to do a remodel, so 112 residents, over 100 of them were families with children and refugees. They were given eviction notices and had 1 month to leave, as they were already struggling in many ways and have had to leave their homes and come to an unfamiliar place. This was difficult news for them. Luckily, the International Rescue Committee in Boise came to their aid to help find them new housing. Volunteers helped transport families to and from housing, assisted in searching for new places to live, and helped with the application processes. Financial and material donations were collected, and volunteers helped with packing and moving the refugees to their new homes. First and last month's rent and deposits and moving costs were a huge burden to the refugees. The Chobani Yogurt Company gave a large donation to help pay those expenses and provide them with relief. Many refugees lack transportation resources and experience with processes such as these, and depend on and benefit from the help of organizations and community volunteers.
Save the Children. Our story, Save the Children, has led global action on children's rights for more than 90 years. In 1919, Jeb established the Save the Children Fund to feed children facing starvation after the First World War. From 1924 to 2012, further actions have been given by this organization. By 2015, they aim to dramatically reduce child deaths and improve children's futures. Some of the effects: around the world, they provide life-saving supplies and emotional support for children caught up in disasters like flood, famine, and wars. Campaign for long-term change to improve children's lives. Improve children's access to the food and health care they need to thrive. Their holistic approach achieves sustainable results. By working with others, Save the Children has played a role in reducing child deaths in recent years from 12 million a year to 7.6 million a year. Another organization is UNICEF. UNICEF stands for the United Nations Children's Fund. Actions. UNICEF began in the aftermath of World War II, supplying dried milk, nutritional supplements, medicines, immunizations, and other urgent assistance to help starving and ill children in Europe, the Middle East, and China. Today, UNICEF works in more than 190 countries and territories to save and improve children's lives. In cooperation with governments and non-governmental organizations, UNICEF saves and protects the world's most vulnerable children, working to ensure child rights and providing health care, immunizations, nutrition, access to safe water and sanitation services, basic education, protection, and emergency relief. In Ethiopia, improving water and nutrition to support community development.
In a Mari Yurbesh village, youngster Ruba Alan Asmaumau goes to a water tap constructed 4 years ago in her village, and unlike old times, she returns home in just 10 minutes, with a clay pot full of water. Now that it's closer, I can fetch water and go to school on time. Before, I used to miss class because the place that I used to fetch water was too far away. The water point, rehabilitated with the support of UNICEF and the European Union after its initial construction in 2008, now serves more than 480 households. It has increased clean water coverage to 70%. Balur Yebel, the Machakel District Water Office head, explains the benefit of such water points.
In the year 2012, 45 water points have been built. In 2013, more than 78 water points are under construction. These water points have increased coverage in our area by about 20%. The support our community is obtaining from UNICEF and the European Union is substantial.
But the impact of the program does not end at the water point. Thanks to the support of the European Union, the community-based nutrition program in the Machakel district is helping save the lives of young children by reducing the number of severe acute malnutrition cases. This vital link is made possible by the health extension workers, who make up part of the 38,000 government salaried health personnel, providing daily mobile interventions to millions across the country. Biruktawit Mulu has been working in the district for 7 years, and in the nutrition program for the last 3.5 years.
In Career Kabele, the nutrition program began in October 2010. At that time, we had 88 cases of severe acute malnutrition. Now in 2013, there are only 40.
Wagai Fanta is a mother who is regularly visited by Biruktawit.
She gave me advice on properly following up on my children, having a smoke-free environment when cooking, keeping my house clean and orderly, as well as keeping our toilet clean. They tell us to feed our children properly and to give them a balanced diet. When they lose weight, they tell us to inform them so they can help them to gain it back.
European Union support is helping Machakel and many other districts across the country.
Another local agency is a Community Action Partnership. Community action changes people's lives, embodies a spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. Because each CAA is governed locally, each provides a different mix of programs and services. One of their biggest ones is the Emergency Food Assistance Program. It's a federally funded program that helps improve the diets of low-income Americans, regardless of age, by providing them with emergency food and nutrition assistance at no cost. The Idaho Office for Refugees by Janice also helps refugees locally. Refugees arrive in Idaho from many areas of the world, forced to flee their native lands because of persecution on account of their beliefs, opinions, or ethnic heritage.
Children refugees are a vast and important population who struggle in a very unique way with poverty. Because we have them in our community and we've created structures that are supposed to help them, we need to increase our awareness because often they're unable to speak for themselves because they don't have a platform or a large enough population to affect change. There are many local organizations who are trying to do this in our community, and we can join our voices to theirs. Also, globally, it is a huge issue, and we can help to understand and participate in social and political change for global organizations as well. We hope that you've learned something from this presentation and feel more able to help in small or large ways in your community. Thank you.